Good afternoon, everyone. This is an agenda for council for the Village of Merrickville Wolford at 2 p.m. on Monday, February the 8th, 2021. And just to remind folks that we are not attending the public at the moment because of we are unable to safely accommodate the public at the meeting, but to ensure transparency, an audio recording of the meeting will be posted on the municipal website immediately following the meeting. And just a quick comments before I call the meeting to order. Literally, I think in the last hour, as promised or indicated, the province has provided an update on things regarding COVID-19 and the stay-at-home order. So the approach is a framework approach. In our area, we are not deemed to be in the green prevent at this time. Again, it's because of numbers. So the stay-at-home order, and I do believe actually for most of the province, is going to be extended till February the 16th. And in terms of whether we would move to green prevent, we won't know that till perhaps next week. That's my understanding. So obviously, folks listening, listen to the media or the health unit updates for the specifics. But it appears that all around us, Kingston and Prince Edward County, Hastings, Renfrew County are in the green prevent. We are not there yet. So important for the public to know that, but our businesses as well, and remind the public, that our businesses, there is curbside pickup. Most of them, I shouldn't say most of them, many of them have online services, so continue to support our local businesses. Tomorrow, I'll be participating in the conversation with other mayors, or rather other mayors being able to hear from retired General Hilliard in terms of the vaccine rollout. Many members of council might get asked, I know I've been asked every now and then, when will the vaccines be available in our area? And again, it seems to be that it's going to be not necessarily by geography, but more category. Are you a frontline worker? Are you in a nursing home? Are you a caregiver, et cetera, et cetera? And the general population follows that. How quickly will that happen? And I know we've heard a lot in the last while in terms of will it be in the first quarter, by the end of February, et cetera. A lot of it's going to be dependent upon the availability of the vaccines. As I say, I'll certainly share with folks what we hear tomorrow in terms of the delivery. I like to think process, and people like to know in our area, what is the process going to be for me? Fitting into a category, will it be by geography? So more on that to come. And the bottom line is, whether you've had your vaccine or not, we need to continue to be careful. There are still serious concerns with COVID-19, but also the new variants that are here in Canada. They're here in Ontario. We've been, to repeat, as a community, Merrickville, Wolford, have done extremely well. Just in the last month, I think, there was the only reported case, to our knowledge, at one of it's public knowledge, Rosewood managed. Not to suggest it's good news for anybody to have it, but the good news in terms of the circumstance, it was an employee. There has not been any spread amongst the staff, nor for the residents there. So that's great news. I'm sure the system, through the health unit of the contact tracing, was ensuring that there wasn't any other serious circumstance leading from that. So that's great.
You're saying it was an employee?
It was an employee, correct. And also the good news as well, because I can't remember how far back, but the province has said you cannot work at multiple, long-term care nursing homes, so there wouldn't be any concern of other institutions of like that we are aware of. Having said that, I'll call our meeting to order and ask if any members have a pecuniary interest, and if so, the nature of it. And I'm getting nodding of heads, no, there are no disclosures at this meeting, and we do have an agenda, so I'd like a mover and a seconder for the agenda, please. Thank you, Mr. Foster, and seconded by Mr. Malloy. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Merrickville does hereby approve the agenda of the regular council meeting of February the 8th, 2021, as circulated. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And next on our agenda are the minutes of our January the 25th meeting. So I've a mover and a seconder for that, please. Thank you, Mr. Malloy. And seconded by Mr. Foster. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Merrickville does hereby approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of January the 25th, 2021, as circulated. Or actually asked any errors and or omissions. None noted. We'll accept them as circulated. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And members, under we have three items under planning. And the first one is an information item regarding the public meeting that was held regarding McLean Landing. So a mover and a seconder for that motion, please. Thank you, Mr. Helpney. Sorry, and a seconder. Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Merrickville does hereby receive McLean Landing Phase 2 Planning Report Addendum of Forbes Simon of JP2G Consultants, Inc., dated January the 27th, 2021, for information purposes. And that Council directs staff to forward the aforementioned report to the McLean Landing Phase 2 applicant for consideration. And the Council directs staff to forward the aforementioned report to the members of the public who provided comments to McLean Landing Phase 2 draft plan of subdivision. And members, you can see that it was we'd previously seen the report from the written questions that had been provided at that meeting. This was a report regarding the questions that were asked in public. So as I say, it's for members' information, and then the two pieces for direction of staff to forward to the applicant and and those that have provided comments. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. And the second item is regarding the county official plan amendment. And a mover for that, please. Thank you, Mr. Malloy, and seconded by Mr. Helpney. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Merrickville does hereby receive the notice of adoption of the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville Official Plan Amendment Number 1, dated January the 22nd, 2021, for information purposes. So that's part of the process, and then there's another motion to follow regarding our official plan. So all in favor of this first item? Thank you. It's carried. And the second one is regarding our own official plan. So a mover and a seconder for that, please. Thank you, Mr. Foster, and seconded by Mr. Helpney. Be hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Merrickville does hereby receive correspondence from Sherry Mills, Manager of Planning Services for the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, regarding recommended modifications to the Village of Merrickville's official plan dated January the 28th, 2021, for information purposes, and the Council does hereby support the proposed modifications to the adopted official plan. And members will probably see that most of the changes are either conforming with the county official plan and or provincial policy statements. Probably the significant one from our perspective is the inclusion of the maintaining the footprint, if you will, the Wolford Bog, provincially significant wetlands that we're all very well knowledgeable of. there aren't any questions, Mr. Malloy?
Has Board Simon seen this? Has he made any?
Mr. Robertson?
Sorry, Your Worship, yes, he has, and he's available by phone if council has any questions that you want to get into specific details on.
Not to prejudge Mr.
But
Malloy's
okay,
thinking,
I guess the
did he
question
have any
is, so he had
comments?
no issues with them?
That's correct, Your Worship, he had no comments on it.
Yeah, great. Nothing else, so I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And now we're down under finance, and members, this goes back to a conversation I think we had, I can't remember if it was before Christmas or after Christmas, certainly around that time regarding the Merrickville food cupboard. So I'll put the motion on the table, but leave the last be hereby resolved blank until council makes a decision. So I'll move in a seconder to get the motion on the table. Thank you, Mr. Foster. Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Whereas due to COVID-19, many community events in the village of Merrickville-Wolford had to be canceled in 2020 in order to protect the safety of the public during the global pandemic. And whereas the cancellation of these community events has left the village with an $11,000 surplus from the 2020 budget allocation to the community grants program. And whereas on December the 14th, 2020, Council discussed potentially allocating a portion of the aforementioned surplus to the Merrickville food cupboard to assist in the provision of food to families in need. And then the last part would be it hereby resolved that the village of Merrickville-Wolford does hereby approve donating, and there'll be a blank number of dollars, from the 2020 Community Grants Program budget allocation to the Merrickville food cupboard. And members, you will recall, I think it was certainly Mr. Foster, Mr. Cameron, were encouraging council to look favorably upon this, and particularly in context. I'm not sure if Mr. Cameron said it or not, but certainly I think we all clued in that a significant fundraiser, if you will, for the Merrickville food cupboard is the CP. They call it the holiday train. We call it the Christmas train, not just in terms of product, but in terms of dollars to assist. And how big is that? That's a big event in the sense that there are actually 3 programs that receive significant support from the holiday train, the Merrickville food cupboard, the Lazarus House over in South Mountain, and I think it's Food for All, but at any rate down in Prescott. We know there are a significant number of families that depend upon the food cupboard. We would, without knowing specifically at the food cupboard, we certainly know from the work of the Lions Club putting together the food hamper, which is a one-time project at Christmas time. There were, I'm going to say 70 families this year.
About 60.
Over 60?
Just, yeah.
Families, so that's a significant number of folks in Merrickville-Wolford, and that's why I believe council wants to continue to look favorably upon providing something. As staff have indicated, there are $11,000 available. That's where money could come from. I'm not sure what the magic number is, but certainly open up to council as to a suggestion, I guess I'll put it that way, if we want to continue looking favorably on it for an amount of money. I see Mr. Foster put his hand up. Thank you. And then Mr. Cameron.
Yeah, so I spoke with Joanne McIntyre at Food Cover to get an idea of their financial picture. I didn't get a complete financial picture from her, but one of the standouts from our conversation was that there are 50 families in our area that receive a $30 food voucher for the Merrickville Food Town. So they have a $1,500 a month outlay just in these.
Pure cash.
Yeah, just pure cash. So a lot of their other expenses, et cetera, depend on what they get in and what they can distribute. But after thinking about it for a while, I realized giving away taxpayers' money is, we're kind of contradicting ourselves in that we don't look well on some of the programs that had flow-through financing. That was an issue with us before as well. So what we're doing is we are donating taxpayer dollars to this, so we really have to be careful there, but an extraordinary year. So I was thinking along the lines of 3 months worth of these food vouchers, $4,500 from our community grants program would certainly help out. Merrickville Food Covered, it would represent 25% of their annual outlay for food vouchers. The money is spent in the community as well, so there's a lot of pluses involved in it, but that would allow us still to put some of the money away back into a reserve, which we have to be mindful of as well.
Thank you. Yeah, just to add to that, and I think in previous years, when the holiday train goes through in terms of not necessarily, well, some combination, I think, of dollars and food that people actually donate through that program, helps them get through something like 3 or 4 months of the beginning of the year. So thank you for that. Mr. Cameron.
Yeah, thank you. I also reached out to Joanne this morning and had a conversation with her. I wanted to get some true numbers right from her herself. In their conversation, she had indicated that there was a 40% increase, and that those numbers were looking to increase substantially in the coming year to next year. The whole industry is looking at a possible 20% higher increase over the 40% they're already experiencing. And they've had their demand has gone from a monthly demand to a weekly demand. Far more newer clients than they usually have, the usual people that depend on these assistance. So they're getting a lot more newer families. The funding that they get does not come from any government dollars. And also she had mentioned the fact that the school programs, which a lot of families rely on, have been shut down because of COVID. So there's an uptick in demand in that aspect as well. And that they're having a problem securing dollars for a healthier food supply. So such things as eggs, milk, chicken, beef, vegetables, and fruit, she says is a rarity for them and a challenge. And she has been discussing with the other industry members, and they're looking that this need is going to be increasingly steady over the next 2 years. They don't see an end in sight, and that the money that they would receive would help an uninterrupted food supply, a food supply system for our community. As Bob indicated, a lot of the money is spent back into the community. So I know it's not a standard for governments to be in the charity business, but given the challenges that we face with COVID, given the fact that a lot of our community members, our friends, our families, and so on are challenged at the moment, I think giving a substantial donation would go a long way in serving the public. So I would like to see council consider the full amount of $11,000. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Malloy.
Yeah, actually, I have a couple of questions. The first one is, oh yeah, sorry. Thank you. A couple of questions. The first one is, what other municipalities does the Merrickville Food Covered support? Can't just, right?
My understanding, I don't know that they would turn anyone away from another municipality, but my understanding is it tends to be people who live in their local municipality that would utilize
I guess
services.
my point was going to be is that if we had some idea of their clientele, we could quite possibly approach other surrounding municipalities to help the support, and give something to them.
Yeah, and before we go to Mr. Cameron, and it's probably not unlike the Lions Club program, and there'd probably be some sensitivity, certainly obviously, I know you're not saying names, but in terms of the numbers of people, yes, how would I want to word this? I wouldn't want us to delay too long deciding, no, let's make a contribution.
No, I'm not saying to delay. I'm just saying we decide on how much we want to donate, but in the meantime or afterwards, if we can figure out what are the municipalities that are being serviced by that organization, then we can, in a nice manner, mayor to mayor or something, or, you know, CEO to CEO, approach them and say, look, this is what's happening. Some of your clients are coming to us. Can we maybe get a donation?
Perhaps you might supplement what we do
Yeah,
today.
exactly.
Gotcha, understood. Mr. Cameron?
Perhaps I can offer a little clarification. When I talked to Joanne, she did indicate to me, Merrickville donations are spent within Merrickville. So whatever money they raise within this community, they re-attribute to this community. That's what she had said. I'd asked her that question.
And you know, that's great information, although I don't know that it would preclude whether it's, you know, myself as a mayor or senior staff contacting the area municipalities to see if they might make a contribution nonetheless. Mr. Foster? And Mr. Roy, your mic's still on, thank you.
Yeah, to get that, I think we're all, so far at least, it appears we're in agreement that we're going to donate something, so we're just talking amount now. I would hesitate to drop the whole 11,000 into this. I think that the more money, first off, we're giving taxpayers money, which I'm really not that excited about, but I recognize there's a special need this year. The other thing is, once the public becomes aware that we're donating taxpayers' dollars to this, they may not feel the necessity to assist any longer because their money's already taken care of. So I think this is an opportunity. Councillor Cameron spoke to it after speaking to Joanne and myself as well. We give them 3 months worth of, and that's just, and it's probably not enough now, as Mike pointed out, the demand has increased. But this is an opportunity for the community to be aware of how much money they need at the Merrickville Food Cupboard. And it's not really the role of the municipal government to provide the entire packet. I think we're highlighting the need. We're highlighting that, yes, we would like to donate some. We would like to encourage the community to make up the rest of the shortfall to the Merrickville Food Cupboard. But this isn't something we're going to do every year. And again, it is an extraordinary year, but I would just caution, I would suggest that council be cautious as to how much they donate, because it's really up to the public whether or not they want to support it themselves.
Thank you. It's, I want to say, uncharted waters for, you know, certainly Merrickville Wolf from that perspective, for the municipality giving taxpayers' dollars, as you say. I think in the spirit of folks understanding not just, you know, the increase in people relying on the food cupboard, and one tends to hear in the media a lot about, say, the city of Ottawa, you know, the programs they've had. So we don't hear so much in the local media, the needs or increased number of people going to their local food cupboard. I think it's really interesting, the bringing some clarity or bringing to light the fact that, you know, the dollar program is not necessarily the food cupboard going out and buying food. It's providing a voucher, if you will, if that's the right terminology, to, as Mr. Cameron said, you know, shop locally at our local grocery store to get fresh vegetables. Because the reason they call it a food cupboard as opposed to, what's the other word I'm looking for?
Food bank?
A food bank, is they rarely have fresh vegetables because they don't have the capacity to store the food. So, you know, providing a better product, a food product for those that are in need. By giving an amount of money can also, you know, one would hope, you'd like to think that whatever we do today, you know, might get reflected in the, you know, in the local media. You know, the local media might contact, you know, the manager of the food cupboard, as Mr. Foster and Mr. Cameron did today, to do a bit of a story, and not so much what we're contributing, you know, rather than a bit of a catalyst, if you will, to do some social marketing that folks I know often around Christmas time, whether it's, what is it, Build a Mountain of Food or the holiday train, the need is all year round, and particularly this year, as Mr. Cameron pointed out, or certainly an indicator from the manager to Mr. Cameron, that the need is not decreasing at all. And so then you can get those that can, those that want to, participating more on a regular basis to support our local food cupboard. So I don't know, I know, not to suggest you're conflicting. From my perspective, I like that idea of if their normal cash amount that they would disperse to those who need is $1,500 on a monthly basis, to give them that 3 or maybe 4 month contribution to, I mean, here we are already virtually the middle of February, to get them into, well into the year, I guess, if we can word it that way, and to get the general public knowledgeable of the fact that it exists and they're in need, and, please step up. The municipality did a wee bit on everybody's behalf, and now those that can to support even more so this year. Mr. Malloy.
Yeah, it appears to me, that we're in agreement on this issue,
Yep.
although there may be some discussions to the amount that we want to donate.
Correct.
It seems that they're behind the 8 ball a bit this year because of the lack of the donations that received from the holiday train and that. Is there any way the food stuffs we can't do anything about, but the cash donations, is there any way we can figure out, or do they know how much cash they normally get from the holiday train? And the reason I ask that, because maybe that could become, I like Bob's idea of, $1,500 per month for 3 months, 4 months. But if we knew how much they got from the holiday train in cash, we may be able to supplement them that amount.
Well,
At least it gives you an idea of what to give
yeah,
them.
perhaps if there's some consensus on saying let's provide 3 months worth of what they identified as their usual, needing cash to have food vouchers or whatever it's called, so that would be $4,500, and then ask them, so how does that compare to what you might usually have? And staff could contact them to get that information, and whether whether it's going to be municipal taxpayers' dollars, or whether we what will we say, initiate maybe a bit of a campaign with a target, not unlike what happens when the holiday train is here, or build the mountain of food, or part of actually when it's Christmas in Merrickville, the Lions Club have a presence as well, to find out from them what would be good. And then maybe the municipality, rather than giving taxpayers' dollars only, might say, let's have a fundraising event and target a date, May 24th weekend, something will be people's minds, so we can get people engaged in a process rather than us just looking at giving more dollars. So we could, if we did 3 months today, get some information, as Mr. Malloy is suggesting, from the food company. How short are you on dollars that you might normally have received to start off, in this case, the year 2021?
Yeah, if I may, I guess my point is also that we're hoping somehow to get a news item out of this. I would think, I'm sure Ms. Thompson is, Ms. Thompson will listen to this debate or this discussion, and if we can get this out to our residents, they're probably not thinking that there was no holiday train this year. So if we make a pointed effort of instructing them or making them aware that there was no holiday train, therefore there was a huge loss of monies and foodstuffs to the cupboard, that might spur them on to make some donations, or it might even spur a group on to start an additional donation fund.
Yeah. So if a lot of nodding of heads, those staff are jotting down critical points, I think, and questions that they could ask the food cupboard and bring back to us. We're comfortable with that approach, unless somebody has something new to say. And there seemed to be nodding of heads around the 3 months, which would be, again, to do the math on $1,500 a month times 3, the last time I checked, is $4,500. If there's comfortable, I'll put that number in and then call the vote on the motion. Okay, so the last part of the motion is, be it hereby resolved that the Village of Merrickville-Wolford does hereby approve donating $4,500 from the 2020 Community Grants Program budget allocated to the Merrickville Food Cupboard. And again, this is not part of the motion, and then staff, I think a show of hands are directed to contact the food cupboard to get the information in terms of what they might normally have received, whether it be from the holiday train, the food, whether Build a Mountain, all other sources, and a little bit of context for what we might do beyond what we're doing today, whether it's more money or starting a community, some kind of an event to help them. Question, Mr. Roy?
Yeah, the 4,500 seems like a good amount based on what information Robert brought, but perhaps also we could have staff inquire again and ask them what their monthly.
I think that's the direction I would do on the show of hands, what you were just alluding to.
Okay, I didn't hear that from your talk. Possibly.
Everybody, if there aren't any new questions, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's great. Thank you very much. And next is the bylaw regarding the 2021 water wastewater rates. So a mover and a seconder for that motion, please. Thank you, Mr. Foster, and a seconder would be, thank you, Mr. Helpney. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Merrickville Wolford does hereby receive report finance-04-2021 regarding the 2021 water wastewater rates, and that Council does hereby give favorable consideration to bylaw 07-2021, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 24-03 to adopt the 2021 water wastewater rates at an increase of 7.5%. And members, I want you to know that that is what staff are bringing forward, and there's the staff report beside attached, or addendum, if you will, outlining what the reason behind the recommendation in terms of essentially building reserves, if we wanted to have the reserves built at that amount. I know this is will probably carry forward into our conversations when we do our, the municipal budget. And while, this is a very sensitive year, we've already, alluded to it in terms of our conversation with the Merrickville Food Cupboard and people needing perhaps more assistance. I'm not necessarily going to say, let's go 0%, but it's going to be a trying year for our residents of Merrickville Wolford, in this case, those that are on water or water and sewer. And so we wanted to have careful consideration. One sometimes says it could be conflicting needs, desires, wants, opinions, whether, yes, it's important to build reserves. Yes, it's important to pay down debt, but it's also important not to increase taxes, or in this case, rates for water sewer. There is a sound reasoning behind the analysis and comments from staff in terms of having the 7.5% increase in terms of building the reserve, in case there, particularly as outlined, if there's an opportunity for a grant program, none of them are 100%. And at best you get these days, at best might be 50-50, and then worse would be, in the category of 80-20. From the dollars and cents increase on the 7.5%, I know it's in here somewhere, about $3, this is on the minimum amount, $3 to $10 range, whether you're on water or sewer. Staff do have, I believe, numbers available if we were, say, to look at whether it's not always recommended, but 0 or something in between at 3% or 5%. And I'm not sure if staff have copies of that, could share with council members. Our treasurer does, and perhaps you could pass those around just so council members have the numbers in front of them for comparison purposes. And I'm not sure whether you, gotta wait for a copy. Thank you. So you can see, members, in the table, the outline of having a 3%, 5%, or 7.5% increase, you can see that the attachment into the motion which you had in your council packages was at the 7.5%. And if you go to the lower amount on the table just passed around, 3% would significantly reduce the amount being put into reserves down to 100,000. And it could show you what the difference would be in terms of what people would be paying. Sorry, it doesn't give the actual rate on there, dollars to cents, but perhaps you just speak to what the difference would be from a billing point perspective. And our treasurer is with us. I'm not sure if you have that number off the top of your head, Kirsten.
I'm sure through your worship, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Sorry, is that
Didn't understand the question.
Okay, so in the initial report, it would show what the amount people would be paying on the minimum amount. On the table, what it's showing is what would be being placed in reserve at the lower amounts, but not necessarily what the rate that people would be paying, the bi-monthly rate. So I guess I'd look at it this way. In the report, it shows at 7.5% what the bi-monthly change would be in dollars and cents. So let's say it's in round numbers, $10 more. It's 7.5%. At 3%, what would the actual dollar increase be for someone bi-monthly bill?
I only have the 7.5% that is in the report. I didn't take one, I didn't attach any of the 3%, 5%, or 10%. This Schedule A has what would be the 7.5%, the monthly base amount.
That's very echoey, so where am I seeing that then?
Your worship, may I just draw your attention to Schedule A at the back of the report provides the rate increase with the proposed 7.5% increase.
Just keep
It's
going,
a
keep
table
going.
at the
It's there.
back.
That's the one that.
Is that the one in our package?
Yeah, it's one in the
Thank you, yeah,
package.
I'm looking at the, sorry, I just have the official paper copy from staff at the table in front of me. I'll find that in a second, thank you.
Oh, here you go, sure, sorry. It's attached to the bylaw.
Thank you, gotcha. Mr. Foster.
Yeah, Kristen, you proposed this as 7.5%. I was just wondering what was your rationale behind 7.5%? You have given us some other options here as well.
I'm just thinking of, in terms of long-term financial planning, trying to build up a reserve for water and wastewater, just because we know there's going to be a lot of infrastructure rehabilitation going along. So just trying to get the reserve built up so we can take advantage of any grant opportunities that might come our way in the next couple of years.
Mr. Malloy,
Yeah,
your mic, please.
yeah, I'm just
Thank you.
finding it first. On page 2, Kristen, it's the paragraph that starts, while operating costs for water and wastewater services are approaching full cost, the village has few funds to set aside for water and wastewater capital work. But I guess the question I have then is Merrick Estates already accounted for then?
Merrickville landing?
Landing, sorry.
I'm sorry, I don't have a list of all the streets that are connected to water and wastewater. Emily does the utility billing, so she'd be more familiar with all the street names.
Well, no, but that whole development up at the end of the whole development up at the end of St. Lawrence, that's been planned out, you know where the streets are and everything. Are we accounted for that work? Yeah?
Oh, do you mean financially?
Well, financially plus service, you know, whether.
Well, if they're connected to the services already, then yeah, it would be included.
Okay, that's already done.
Yeah.
Oh,
Want to speak?
yeah.
And
Sorry.
Mr.
I don't know where all the
Robertson.
subdivisions are here.
Mr. Robertson.
So, Your worship, thank you. So staff did not presuppose council's decision in approving any particular development when coming up with these numbers. So Merrickville Landing Phase 2, which has not received draft plan approval yet, is not factored into these numbers.
Right. Yep, okay.
Sorry, Merrickville Plan 2, what section is that then? Can you just verify for me?
So there was McLean's Landing Phase 2 is the second phase of McLean's Landing, so it's the one to the west.
Towards Reed Street.
Correct, closer to Reed
Gotcha.
Street.
Okay.
Okay. And what's your mic there, Mr. Mulley? Thank you. Any other questions for clarification? Mr. Cameron?
Just to build on the point that Councillor Malloy's talking about here, a situation where we're not in good standing for receiving a grant at this moment because of lack of monies in our reserve. When we did the Lewis Street extension, we had approximately put in $230,000 of taxpayers' money to hopefully develop Dr. Conway's property. I know there's been an interest in that property. That project has been completed in 2019. Have we moved forward on any possible subdivision plan being proposed for that so that we may recoup that money and add some more homes there so we can get our monies back up and start working a little bit more diligently towards our reserves? Has there been any progress on that?
Yeah, sorry, did you want to supplement that question, then staff comment on Mr. Foster, and then we'll go to staff?
My question was just, I wasn't aware that infrastructure rehabilitation was in fact to service the Conway property. It's described as an infrastructure rehabilitation to the existing sewers that were there.
That's right.
And they extended some of them, but the purpose of that money wasn't just to service that property.
No.
Yeah, we won't, we'll stay focused on what we're doing at the rates this year, but you're right, Mr. Foster, it was replacing existing infrastructure, and part of it was setting it up such that additional properties in the future could hook in more easily, or contiguous, I guess would be the word, to put in focus Mr. Cameron's comments, that could be hooked up. In terms of the development of that property, that's part of the planning process. Obviously, you can't work that into, as Mr. Robertson also indicated with the McLean Landing, you know, until something is actually hooked up, you don't include them in your dollars for 2021. So we'll stay to the rates, what we're going to do with the rate structure this year. Mr. Cameron.
Yeah, I understand what you said, but I mean, there was a significant investment into that project.
Yeah.
So our hope would be to receive some benefit from it.
That's
So as the treasurer is indicating that, you know, she's recommending a 7.5% increase because there's some substantial considerations coming up in the future. And here we had invested this money, and I realize it was for rehabilitation, but it was also to allow access to future builds. And we've invested that money. The project's been completed for a year and a half. Are we moving forward, or do we know if there's anything on the sidelines there of interest to build that piece of property out so that we may be in a better position and better standing financially? That's because that would help me make a decision on whether we should go with a 3, 5, 7, or a 10% increase. Because if we know that there's more potential coming in the coming year, then it's something that we should be considering when we're considering this rate.
So, yeah, I think staff do want to make a comment, but so little perspective in the sense that, as indicated in the report, you know, the value of having reserves is, well, number one, there may be something unplanned that happens this year that you need available dollars to fix the infrastructure. That's number one. Number two, and they don't happen very often, but, you know, if there are any, we'll say, water, sewer, grant programs available, you know, we do need to have matching dollars to some degree, whether it's 50/50, 80/20, as I indicated earlier on. The project we referenced, we'll call it the Lewis Street project, was by and large, replacing old infrastructure and afforded the opportunity for properties in that area, if you will, that are not on water or sewer to be hooked up. And that's where, we don't spend the money, but that's where a developer would come along and invest their dollars in a project. And at that point, well, Mr. Robertson, staff wanted to make a comment. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would just caution council not to predetermine whether or not you're going to approve a certain development or not, or to what scale of development when we have not even received an application for it.
Yeah, yes, there's a, well said, and good advice to members of council to, there is a planning process, and wherever a property might be, that process will follow from a planning process perspective. We have our house in order in terms of, opportunities for developers to come and build new and create new property taxes for the municipality, and in certain circumstances, this one in particular, to add to contributing to the being hooked up to the wastewater system and paying their rates as well. However, it still comes back to what are we going to do this year in terms for restructure? And I see Mr. Foster and then Mr. Malloy. Go ahead, Mr. Foster.
Yeah, the previous council had the schedule drawn up for 10% a year. We're now in a situation where we do have a reserve, not great reserve as our. However, she did include this in our message here, that the net debt indicator has also changed from moderate to low risk. So I know this sounds like a cop-out, but at least if we went for the 5% increase, that's some relief over the last several years. We still add some to our reserves, and with the situation with it being, I assume, I'm not misspeaking on our debt indicator, but if we had to acquire funds to supplement a government program, we could borrow.
That would make sense. And to some degree, that would also be the extent of the grant application. Just most of them would allow you to borrow, but they all have their own rules. But yes, we should have some more wiggle room to borrow now.
So we're sufficient. So we do have some reserves. We will add more to our reserves at 5%. And the difference between 5 and 7.5 or even 10, if the situation demanded it, we could borrow against it. There's nothing to say we're going to need that in the next year. And as everyone's aware, once you raise something, the price never goes down. So if we can hold this to 5%, that would be the responsible. We'd still be meeting our reserve requirements, and we'd be offering, I know it's hard to say you're offering your residents relief when you're tagging them a 5% increase, but it's better than the 10% that was proposed previously. And thanks to the former council, we were in a position where we could reduce it to 5%.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes. Thank you. Just want to ask the treasurer, the 300, for the estimated balance, was it 317,000? Was that a number that you had picked out, or is it just a result of the 7.5%?
Yes, this would be a result of what we would be able to add to the reserve of the 7.5%. So you just take your existing balance and the new contribution.
Sure. Okay. Now, just to tack on to Councillor Foster's comments, the difference between 5 and 7.5, is that much of an issue for us, or is the 7.5 sort of what you consider to be, ultimately what we need to do?
Well, I guess that decision rests with council, right? Which is,
But from a financial point of view.
More reserve is always better.
Yeah, that's a difficult question to answer. But you're right. More reserve is always better. But I understand council, wishes to keep things affordable for the residents.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you.
questions, and then we'll try to move forward. Mr. Cameron?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Councilor Foster. I think we should drop it from 7.5 down to 5%. It's a minimal drop, and it's could be a substantial savings for some residents in our community. So there are other options if we need to get other monies, like Councilor Foster stated, and I would be in favor of a 5% increase. Thank you.
Thank you. And if there's any other questions, I'm going to, so I have a mover, Mr. Foster, and a seconder, Mr. Helpney. And I'll read it again. The Council of the Corporation of the Village of Merrickville does hereby receive report finance-04-2021 regarding the 2021 water wastewater rates, and the Council does hereby give favorable consideration to bylaw 07-2021, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 24-03 to adopt the 2021 water wastewater rates at an increase of. So the mover and a seconder, are you all right if I change that to 5%, and then I'll call the vote? So I'm getting a nod from Mr. Foster and Mr. Helpney as well. You okay with that, sir? Okay. So I've changed it by hand to 5% and initialed it, and if there aren't any new questions, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And thank you to staff for having those other dollars available for council's consideration. Before I go to the actual bylaw, Mr. Foster, you have a question?
Just wondering if it'd be appropriate to ask Kristen, while we have her here, just about the format of the budget, whether it'll include 2019 actuals, 2020 budget, and actuals 2021 budget?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, members, this is the actual bylaw for the water wastewater rates. So, mover and a seconder for that, please. Thank you, Mr. Malloy. And a seconder would be, thank you, Mr. Cameron. Be it hereby resolved that bylaw 07-2021, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 24-03 to adopt the 2021 water wastewater rates, be read a first and second time, and that bylaw 07-2021 be read a third and final time and passed. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. The bylaw. And next on our agenda, just a quick update from our CIO in terms of process to bring some information to council on our advisory committees.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a very brief update to let you know that we've drafted a very brief survey to send out to advisory committee members and chairs. Essentially just very high level. We're just going to ask them if they're comfortable meeting, what they feel the preferred and best method of meeting is, for example, whether it's phone or virtual meetings. And in particular to make sure that all members of the committees are able to participate and have equitable access so that when they vote, they maintain the integrity of the voting process. So we're anticipating sending that out tomorrow. Any members that don't have email access or so forth, we'll contact them by phone and populate the survey for them.
So your expectation is to have some information back to us at our next council meeting?
That's what I'm targeting, Your Worship.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you very much. And next we do have a confirmatory bylaw. And mover and seconder for that. Thank you, Mr. Helpney, and thank you, Mr. Foster. Be it hereby resolved that bylaw 06-2021, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council meeting in February the 8th, 2021, be read a first and second time, and that bylaw 06-2021 be read a third and final time and passed. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And before I read the motion to adjourn, just remind folks that I have the dates correct, but maybe not the dates, but the event is Monday is Family Day, so similar to what we've done Christmas and New Year's. Think of your family. If they're not in your bubble, that don't get together. Continue to stay safe. Families are important no matter where they are in the neighborhood, in the region, or around the world. I can attest to that. And then also later in the month, and I'm not sure if it's the very same day or not, but it kind of fits in, is Flag Day. And, it is, I always get emotional with this because I think, I'm very, wrap myself in the flag on July 1st. It is our country, we're in it together. Doesn't matter whether it's Merrickville, Wolford, Leeds and Grenville, Ontario, it's all of Canada. And we should be proud of what everybody has done and proud to encourage people to continue doing what we're doing in terms of staying safe. The people's contributions, whether it's in the category of using the word sacrificing or just being committed to knowing, following the guidelines of, the 2-meter distancing, wearing a mask, washing your hands. Just, it can't be underscored anymore. And if you need any motivation, think of Family Day, think of Flag Day. We live in a great country, and it's because of what, not just we do collectively, but everybody individually. I look around the room at staff and my council colleagues, and I know, I see you out and about, and everybody is a good example. We're staying safe, and I hope everybody continues to do so. We will get there. It'll be a while, but we will all get there. Continue behaving the way we have been so well since last year, virtually. So a mover and a seconder to adjourn, please. Thank you, Mr. Malloy, and seconded by Mr. Foster. Be it hereby resolved that this council of the Corporation of the Village of Merrickville Wolford is hereby now adjourned at 3 p.m. until the next regular meeting of council on Monday, February the 22nd, 2021 at 2 p.m. or until the call of the mayor subject to meet. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you all.